it's okay to not be the popular parent and make what rules you have for your family not be the popular ones, with the idea of maybe your children are not allowed to spend the night somewhere, until they're a certain age. Um, and that's just your rule. Maybe they go to a sleepover and they get to stay there till bedtime and you go pick them up and take them back the next morning. It's okay to not worry about what society says. The idea is, I think most parents have a plan of what they want for their family and the rules that they have to put in place to make that happen. And it's okay. There's a lot of parents that you feel like maybe they're not paying attention to their kid, maybe they're not doing this or that, and your child looks at that and like, they don't have to do that, they don't have a bedtime, they're allowed to go here and there. um, I've had to tell a few parents, just like in the last month, it's okay to have your own rules. It's okay not to do what everybody else is doing just because all the 8-year-olds have a cell phone. If you don't feel like they're old enough for a cell phone, don't give them one. It's okay to have your own rules. I just think there's a lot of pressure to be and have and behave a certain way. And I can say, after getting my children to the age they are now, adult children, I don't regret being the unpopular parent that they weren't allowed to spend the night places until they were old enough to literally walk out of the house if they needed to. I think that we don't give ourselves enough credit for what we want to happen in our home and creating our rules and feeling like they're wrong with everything that's going on in society.
I know I've been having conversations with people um, about how hard it is, from my point of view, how hard it must be to be a parent now. And I know that I feel like I had a better opportunity to create and enforce rules in my house that just would not be possible to have now. I was a big one for not having TVs in my kids' rooms, especially not when they were little, because I think then they would just, get home from school and just go a hole up in their bedroom all the time, and you just don't see them back in the day. And nowadays there'd be no way to do that because you have a TV in your pocket. And there were TV shows that were like maybe popular back in the day that I didn't necessarily want my kiddos watching because I didn't want. I was a big one. I despised Saved by the Bell. I don't know why, but I was like, bratty kids. There, you are never gonna have this like drama of, oh, I've got 2 dates for the prom. How am I gonna take them? But I just didn't think that it highlighted relationships, especially from like a girl's point of view, in a good way. I just, anyway, silly things. But nowadays we hear about kiddos being exposed to porn at ridiculously young ages because they can find it anywhere on the internet. So I think it's definitely much harder to be a parent and sit down, you and your partner can sit down and come up with some guidelines that you want to enforce raising your child. But then they get out into kindergarten. I know my daughter, as a kindergarten teacher, talks about kids playing, what is that Netflix show where they they play kid games and die? That one. Yes. I can't think of the name now. I'll think about it as soon as we're done podcasting. And the kids play these games at school like they're fun, and they're like, that's not how we play those games. We don't want to be dying. So what do you think?
Something that I've learned is that it's always been a policy for me to have the contact number of the person that my daughter is going to go spend the night with. That is not something that the other parents do anymore. I never get that question from Brianna saying, "Well, my friend's mom wants to talk to you. They want your phone number." where did that go? Like, I want to know where she's going and the people that she's going to be spending the night with. But I just, like, my husband and I talk about it all the time, going, what happened to that, like, thing that we used to do when we were little? Like, we always knew the parents. Like, it's just not.
I've had many parents tell me that because I don't have younger ones, you know what I mean? My kids are adults now. Um, I've had a lot of parents tell me that they kind of like will reach out, I'd like to have a conversation, get to know you, at least at the very minimum, have your phone number and have had a conversation with you, maybe even before I take your child with me to a park that we're going to be gone 12 hours, all day with your child. And they're not even having a conversation with them.
None. So we don't know, who's in that house, what the environment is. And, I know that my daughter has been exposed to a lot of things, in her young life already. And, that's just something that is very important to me, knowing who's over there and what's happening. Or you're not going. You're not going.
And what's interesting is that I think moms and dads sometimes try to be, at least now, their kids' friends, right? They want to be, cool. And, yeah, I want my kids to like me. And but ultimately, I'm the one that's, I'm really not their friend. I'm the one that's trying to guide them and help them become a good person. And one time, it's funny that we're talking about this topic because there was a mom, these kind of situations come up, and I actually said to my son, I'm going to call the mom to make sure, and he was like, what? And I'm like, I sorry. And so I did. Actually, I didn't call her. I texted her. And she was so appreciative, and she was like on the she goes, I wanted to text you too, I wanted to but she didn't. Like, so what stopped her? It's bizarre. I mean, it was a little awkward, but I'm like, I did. And this is when my son, I think they were going to the beach or something with a bunch of friends, and there was a parent, and I'm like, this is a little, I'm a little nervous about this. But the mom wanted to text me or call me. She didn't, but she was like so thankful. She goes, oh my gosh, I wanted to reach out. So what stopped her? And again, I like my kids. I love my kids, but ultimately, when they're kind of just growing up, you don't want to be their friend. And I think a lot of parents are. So they want to just toe that line and be cool and, not rock the boat, not make things unpleasant. But you have to kind of make things unpleasant because life isn't pleasant all the time.
Yeah. And I think you have to be the person.
I just know that when I was growing up, I just knew when I was growing up, when I said I was going to that person's house, I probably wasn't. So, so I know from history.
Yeah.
Well, I think whenever you make that connection with the other parent, you're also showing your child that there are adults that are in charge of the situation, that it's not all up to them. And I would think that that would give them a little bit of sense of security, knowing my mom talked to your mom, my dad talked to your dad, whatever that looks like. But like just a little bit where maybe they wouldn't try to maybe do something that they shouldn't be doing, just with the idea of these are adults that are in charge of the situation. And I feel like now, and I got to be a different kind of parent than parents get to be today because we didn't have the internet on. I mean, literally, we had dial up and they got an hour a week and they were fine with it. It was like, woohoo,
Yeah.
But I think it's pretty tough right now. It really is. And now that they're adults, I get to be their friend now. It's wonderful to really engage and hi, how are you? Did you have a good day? And like you really have that conversation. For a very long time, I felt like I had to be a mean mom. Like that was what we were titled like you're mean if you have that oversight. And then there was like the helicopter parents, you know, what's wrong with being a helicopter parent of knowing it's 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, whatever time it is, and your family sitting down together and they're having a meal together. You know, like I think it's not all bad. And I don't know if people got like the reputation of, I don't want to be a helicopter parent. So they pulled back so much that they're afraid to be that kind of parent that they want to be.
Well, I mean, I would, don't let the labels that other people put on you be the label that you put, that you like assume for yourself, because there's a difference. If you have a child with a mental health challenge or with any kind of challenge, you may have to be a little more involved than a parent who doesn't have those concerns about their child. So I think maybe our situations could be a little different. You know, if your child has to take medicine before bed for whatever reason, it could be like an antibiotic because they're just getting over some kind of whatever. You may have to reach out to the parent to remind them, you know. You may have to kind of impose yourself on, you know, their fun day to send them a text or give them a call and say, did you take your medicine like you were supposed to? And if that's what you need to do for your family, then that's what you do. I used to always say, like, my child does not need a 40-year-old friend. We only have one mom. No one else can take a mom's place. There's a lot of very loving people who can come into our children's homes and be very valuable to them. But, you know, that motherly love that you have in your heart, you're unique. So fill that unique role. But, you know, spend some time and think about what your rules are and that are important to you. And like Melissa kind of said, don't feel like you have to play society's role of a mom. I know, you know, I raised my kids with the information that was available at the time, knowing, how often do we say that? If I knew then what I know now, would I have done some things differently? Absolutely. But I didn't. So I did the best that I could with the information that I had at the time. And you have to give yourself that permission to do your best, learn from it, and then adapt. But sit down and really think about what your goal as a parent. What do you want for your child? And then you be you. And I think it's okay because, again, a lot of people are temporary guests in our children's lives. And they're not going to be there when our child is 22 and, you know, has some challenges that, you know, that you're going to be there and you're going to step in and help them with. And you don't want your child at 8 or 9 being at somebody else's house drinking a beer because, you know, there's a party at the house and nobody's really monitoring and the kids sneak a beer, and, you know, which can lead to a slippery slope for some children. So, you know, and it may happen anyway, but, you know, you have to think about what kind of parent you want to be, and that has to be okay. That has to be okay. Even from, sometimes we get grief from people in our family who are raising their children differently or who have different ideas. That may be our own parents, it may be our own siblings or friends, and that has to be okay too, because you have a goal and a focus for your child. And we do talk about this when we do the IEP boot camp. One of the things that we talk about is kind of think about, what is your family mission? What's your mission statement for your family? What do you want for your child? And how are you going to follow those, you know, what path are you going to follow to get them there? But it's okay to be that family if it means protecting your kid.
Absolutely. And they only get one childhood.
I was just going to say that. Yeah. So true. So true.
And
You
I
get
like
one
the
shot.
idea of giving yourself permission. Give yourself permission for what it is that you want. It doesn't have to be that you're looking at I'm giving them this rule, that rule, all these rules. These rules are in place because of what you wanted for them, like the happy, healthy. Okay, but what makes it healthy? Maybe you're thinking about how much screen time, how much time on their phones, that kind of thing. The Child Mind Institute, Mental Health America, and the CDC, they have guidelines on what is recommended for your child's age, how much sleep they should be getting, how much screen time, what food they like, a balanced meal, healthy diet, all the way around. You could find like all those statistics, because if you just look at society, you're not really going to get the best answers, maybe for what your family wants. But I think there's really good places to find that information. Um, I know I would have to look there and know what those guidelines were if I had someone, underage, still trying to figure out like what's a good healthy balance, you know.
And the other,
I think they
Okay.
just released a new report too this week. And he was talking about the amount of time that our kids are on their phones or on screen time needs to be drastically reduced, because the mental health side of things have been increasing. And I know by raising a daughter, screen time has been a huge issue in our home. The amount of depression, anxiety that I have seen increase. I know that I was going to say this earlier. The Shape the Sky website has a contract on their website that you can download, and you can talk about that you're going to make a contract with your child with a phone, and that there is times that you're going to have that phone turned off. We have had it where it will be downstairs at night at a certain time, and you can have it back in the morning before school. So that you're not on the phone all night long. But with that contract, you also can be able to say, I will go through your phone at any given moment to make sure that you are doing things appropriately. You don't have apps or, people on there that you should not have or that you don't know. So I think that it's a really big, important topic to discuss, the phone, the screen time, and setting those boundaries even on the cell phones.
and early on, it really, I think, with if you're a single parent, it's you make the rules, and you can get help from your friends that you trust or your family. But if you're in a relationship, like I remember my husband and I, we didn't talk about this stuff, when we got married and when we decided to have kids. Well, we have to do, let's talk about that. We just kind of did what we did. We didn't think about stuff, and the world is just so very different with technology. And we often talk about, um you know we know where our kids are. You can find them now with your phones and everything, and it's just so different from when we grew up. And
It is.
it's just about your family and your partner, your spouse or whoever, really talking about when you have children, what it's kind of weird to think, but you do have to kind of think forward. What is our plan? Like, what are we, what's this going to look like when little Johnny or little Sally is a little older? And my husband would always just want to brush it off. Oh, relax, you overreact. But you can't. You have to kind of stay on top of the technology and what's out there that our kids can get their hands on, because they can, and they do.
And I'll say,
Oh, yeah.
when my oldest was young, me and my partner were on the same page. And then years later, we had more kiddos and we diverged terribly. And there are a lot of challenges that come from raising a child with an ex-partner who is not on the same page with you. And that will be an excellent topic for another time. But, I think it's really important. There are some things that we didn't have to, technology evolved so quickly. We didn't know um, the toll that it would take on our children and the toll that it was taking on our children. I do think that, you can, like Melissa said, you can look up some guidelines and have an idea about how much sleep a kiddo needs, and then kind of think about what's right for your child and your family and how you're going to make that happen. So take those guidelines, they're guidelines, and adjust them for your situation and your family. Screen time, same thing. Kind of think about it. What kind of screens are your children watching and interacting with? What I think makes it so hard is when my kids were little, it was like, don't let them play video games. Video games are awful. And I think that happens. I think that that's society's reaction when you look back through history. People reading books was going to destroy the fabric of our country. And now we're like, why can't you read more books? So I think that there's this knee-jerk reaction of society that everything that is new is bad. And I think we've come to find out now that there's some different, different video games can be good for your kiddo. So I think that, as a parent, again, that's where you have to step in and decide what's important for you. If you're a gamer and you love to sit with your kiddo and game with them, what a fantastic way to spend time together. And I know that sometimes we're told as a society that women don't game, but yeah, they do. And if you haven't tried it, try it, and maybe that can be something that you do together. Sit down, try, and especially when your kiddos are young, what do you like? What are you playing? Let me play with you. Show me how to play this game. Why do you like it? Let's look for a game that we could play together. Or again, a great opportunity to bring in some of those bonus people in your kiddo's life. If you have like a brother who lives across the country and he likes to game, or sister and she likes to game, see if you could set up a time where, your kiddo and your bonus person can get together and they can game together. So it can kind of become a family activity. And I think that happens a lot in terms of, when we have Jill and Chrissy on, we're at cheer with the kids, we're at football with the kids. So I think that kind of happens naturally too. Is there a way that you could kind of push in a little bit to what your kiddos are doing and what they like, so you have something to talk about?
Absolutely. That's a good idea. Yeah, we want to bridge the gap. Yeah, we just don't want to. It's almost like food. Everything good in moderation, right? It's okay, moderation.
Yeah. And I know when my kiddos were little, that's how I got to know their friends, is when they were involved in activities. I would get to see the other parents. I would get to know the other parents. But a lot of that has gone by the wayside. And if you have a child who isn't really good at organized activities, that's definitely more challenging for you, because you're not going to get to know the other theater moms and dads, the other dance moms and dads, the other football moms and dads. And it's hard because our kiddos can have people come into their lives and we don't know them and they're not who they pretend to be. So that can definitely be challenging. But I do think that, Melissa, we started with this idea of it's okay to be the kind of parent that you want to be.
Yeah,
And
give yourself permission.
I think for me, if I had a choice of looking back, if things didn't go well, looking back and saying, did I follow my gut, my instinct, and do what I wanted to do? Or was I kind of too afraid? Did I follow what I thought society wanted me to do? And it didn't work out. I would at least rather be mad at myself for having the wrong instincts, than not doing what I wanted to do. Any parting words of wisdom, ladies, we could share with our audience?
I think just the title of our podcast is really I think most parents are in that situation that they're not the kind of parents they thought they'd get to be, and this was not what they were expecting. Embrace it, figure out what's going to work for your family, and don't worry what everybody thinks about it if it's not the popular thing to do, or, because at the end of the day, it's your job to be a parent, and someday, hopefully, you get to be friends with your kids and have a different kind of relationship, but it's okay to be the person that's kind of creating this environment where they succeed and they question things and don't just take everything at face value, and they learn and makes them think a little bit about something. Just I think about Christina saying about that show, and with the idea, then when your children watch something, they would think, is this giving me the right message? Is this showing is this a real portrayal of how girls should be treated or how girls behave? I think that's good to help them question those things instead of thinking everything is what it seems.
Pearl, Tracy, parting words?
I would just say parenting is tough. It's hard. There's no manual. Sometimes you just go with it. But go with your instinct, and don't conform, because everybody else is, oh, you can go to the movies at 11, to the 11 p.m. movie to 1 a.m. No, when you're 10 and 11, no. You don't need to go to a movie at 11 p.m. Go to the afternoon one. That might not be the best, the favorite thing, but don't give in. Do what's right for your family.
I think too, parenting is hard, and exactly what Pearl was saying, there is no manual. We as parents of, special needs, or, kids with, some behavioral challenges, there was no manual when we signed up for this at all. And I think that just something is that you're not alone. That we are here, reach out, because it can be very isolating, and you just want to have that other person just to say, you've got this, and you're going to get through this.
Well, thanks for sharing this morning, and thanks for listening to the people listening. And if you have a topic that you want us to cover, shoot us a message at paparentfamilyalliance.org, and we're definitely happy to talk about it. But thanks for your time, ladies. Have a great day.
Bye.
Have a good day.
You too.